Chris Godinez, licensed professional counselor, also the host of We Need to Talk on every Sunday at noon here on YouTube, and then I post it up to Facebook. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. If you feel you need a therapist, please go to Google, type in therapy, your city, Psychology Today will pop up, click on that, and it will have qualified therapists in your area. Also, the views and opinions stated herein are mine and mine alone. They do not represent the ACA, the APA, or any other damn therapist for that matter. Boom! Shakalaka done. Okay, so just to remind you, books are on sale on my website. I will autograph them for you. You can also get them off of Amazon, and there's also audio for both of these. So you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them cha-cha, which is about why some people stay in abuse and others get out. And What's Wrong with Your Dad, which is about me growing up with a father who was just completely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So anyway, these are these two, and I do the narration on them. Shahida Arabi's book, amazing. Get it, read it, work it. Serious as a heart attack. I'm telling all of my clients, it's like, work this book, do it. So it's great because she's got like journal stuff to do. She's got exercises to do. It's the Highly Sensitive Person's Guide to Dealing with Toxic People by Shahida Arabi. She's amazing. I love her. She's fantastic. So get this book. Also, Susanna Quintana's book is available on her website. It's You're Still That Girl. So fantastic book. I love Susanna. If you are outside of Arizona, Susanna is your girl. I can only counsel people inside of Arizona. So just letting you know. Okay. Hi, everybody. Okay. So today's topic is, what the heck? Why don't family and friends in the legal system get it? What's going on? What the hell? Okay. So let's start with the legal system. I think that'll be, well, actually, let's start with all of them. So if someone has not been through abuse, and this includes therapists, it is incredibly hard to wrap your head around it. Now, you would think, well, so here's the thing. When I was going through school, this was back in 2003 to 2005, they refused to teach about personality disorders. They said, oh, don't worry about it. It's going to be taken out of the DSM. Don't worry about it. You know, the APA and the ACA are all, wanting to get rid of it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it was a political issue. So they have not removed it, I would like to point out, from the DSM. So it's still in there. And whether you call a personality disorder, or you call it Harold, it's still a personality disorder. I just, don't get me started. So they would not teach about domestic violence, any of that stuff. So everything I have learned, I had to go out and teach myself, go find the experts and learn about it. So, I mean, and obviously I went through my own with my dad, so that kind of helped, but they were not teaching it. So there's a whole bunch of counselors out there that don't know their ass from a hole in the ground because they were not taught how to, or what to look for, or how to deal with, or what the dangers are, or anything like that. So if any of you are, counseling students, therapists, etc., go educate yourself. Go read up as much as you, if they don't answer your questions in school, go find the answers yourself. Go watch the videos by Shahida and by Richie Grannon and, Dr. Ramani and, all of these wonderful, wonderful resources out there. So education is the key. This now then leads into, why doesn't the family and the friends, the legal system get it? Because nobody's talking about it, because nobody is educating. Nobody is out there going, this is what you need to look for. This is the danger. This is love bombing. So what oftentimes happens is a person leaves an abusive situation, whether that is a work situation or a romantic situation, or they finally get fed up with the family being cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and they leave, and then they get hit with all these people going, but why are you leaving? But why are you leaving? But you shouldn't be leaving. That's a great position. You're making so much money. Meanwhile, they're up at 3:00 in the morning pacing the floor with an ulcer because their narcissistic boss is targeting them and driving them crazy, quite literally. Or they've got family that's abusive and is targeting them, and their lives are miserable and they're much happier without them. But yet you get these flying monkeys who just don't get it. Or you have then the worst case scenario is the damn legal system. Legal system is not educated at all, period, in psychology. They're not. Their job is the legal stuff. And unfortunately, if you're going to be a family court lawyer or you're going to be a family court judge, I honest to God think it should be mandatory that they get education and at the very least in abusers, disorders, what they do, what maneuvers they're going to try in court, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because as we all know, anybody who's been through a divorce, oh, where's that book? Where's that book? I don't know where that book is. Splitting. Damn it. What did I do with it? Good Lord, I cleaned my office. I can't find anything. Anyway, Splitting by Randy Krieger and Bill Eddy. Okay. If you're divorcing, you've got to read that book because it lists out every damn thing that they're gonna do because they do. It's like they have a handbook. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like every single one of them acts exactly the same way. And so you would think that the legal system would be up to date on this. No. First time I educated lawyers was what, 4 years ago? 4 years ago when I got my little lawyers and I was like, okay, guys, let me educate you on this. And that's why I have a group of lawyers that I use here in town. So because I know they know what they're doing because I've educated them on this. But you get in front of some of these judges. Some of the judges are absolute narcissists and they side with the narcissist and they will mob the opposing spouse because they identify with the narcissist. So huge problem in the legal system. So then let's take this further out into, okay, family and friends. Okay, it is incredibly hard to get people to wrap their heads around it, even sometimes when they've actually been through the abuse. So, because there's so much denial. So think about it. Think about how much brainwashing goes on. Think about how much gaslighting, how much lying, rewriting history, intermittent positive rewards. Think about all that goes on. That's toxic soup. And so if there's a family system of that, facing that for an adult child is really hard because you have to admit, mom and dad did not have my best interest at heart. And that is a tough one. It is. And then, of course, coming out of an emotional, a romantic relationship, kind of the same thing. How could I have picked this person? How could I have done that? And then you get the family and the friends that are flying monkeys. So, huge topic. So, okay, let me just take a deep breath here. So, what you have going on is you have family and friends that are only seeing the charming part of them. So there's so much here. There's so much information. Okay. So when you are dealing with a narcissist, and especially a dark triad, they are crazy. Okay. And they are adept at doing the charming thing in public. So everybody sees them as charming. They don't see the put downs, the discards, the nastiness, the little sliding fuck yous that they do. You know what I'm saying? They don't hear or see any of that because in public, they are perfect. So it's kind of like, I finally watched Into the Woods the other night. Gotta say, I didn't like it. I like happy endings. Anyway, but Prince Charming, right? So when he's seducing the baker's wife, he's like, well, I was raised to be charming. I wasn't raised to be sincere. And I was like, oh my God, he's a narcissist, So, and that's pretty much it. So they're charming. They've learned to charm. So they charm the victims, the target's family. They charm the target's friends. They try to get on their side. They try to make them like them. And so they'll do things to be charming, extravagant gifts, love bombing, basically, or over complimenting, or, oh, I'm just like you, that kind of, that stuff. So there is that going on. So if you have a dark triad, that means they're psychopathic, Machiavellian, control freak, and narcissistic. And they're really good at charming. They're really good at pretending to have real, honest to God emotions. They are. So they don't see what's been happening in behind closed doors, unless until the abuser loses their mind completely, mask completely drops, and then they go full bore. So what is going on? So there's a couple of things going on. So with the family, there could be this thing of guilt. It's like, I don't want to acknowledge it. I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to see the pink elephant taking a shit in the corner of the living room. It's not there. La, 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 la. Meanwhile, the crap just keeps piling up higher and higher. So there could be some of that going on, or it could be that the family is dysfunctional itself. So think about it. It's like healthy people with a good self-esteem very rarely get caught in one of these relationships unless the person is a complete psychopath and has completely charmed and or fooled everybody. And that does happen. But a lot of times we have been groomed to accept codependency, to accept weird behavior, to accept, because remember, we go out and look for what feels familiar. So a lot of times the family will have this guilt thing going on, and they're like, they feel guilty, but they don't want to address it. And that's not healthy or normal. A normal family would be like, okay, there's a problem. Let's get it fixed. Let's help this person. Let's get them out of this dangerous situation. We're good to go. What ends up happening with a lot of targets of abuse, though, is that they find that they don't have the support they thought they did, which really sucks major ass. And it pisses me off because what ends up happening is people start choosing sides. That's what happens. And the narcissist is going off on a smear campaign, guarantee it. The second the target of abuse has figured out who and what they are and starts separating from them, that is when the narcissist starts doing the whole, oh, they're crazy. Oh, they're this. Oh, they're that. Oh, they've done this. Oh, by the way, and then they start making shit up and they just start going on a smear campaign with all of the family, all of the friends, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I've had family members try to do that to me. They'll call me up and start bad-mouthing somebody else, and I'll be like, let's get them on the phone. You know what? I'm not doing this triangulation of communication. Let's get them on the click. I thought so. So it's like it's really important to know that is what the abusers do. They go off on a smear campaign. They absolutely will then start bad-mouthing, and they're trying to convince the family and the friends that you are Satan, when in fact they're talking about themselves. Everything that they will be accusing you of they are in fact, boom, talking about themselves. Hello, Rabbit Hole Bill. Anyway, so yes, that is what they do. So they are talking about themselves. They are smearing you, and they are smearing you to the family. Now, if the family is dysfunctional in any way, shape, or form, they're going to start siding with the abuser. A healthy, normal family, like if one of my nieces or nephews or great nieces or great nephews came up to me and said, Aunt Chris, Aunt Bunny, because I get called Bunny because I call everybody Bunny, so I'm Aunt Bunny to a lot of them. Anyway, so, Aunt Bunny, this is happening. What do I do? I'd be like, oh, read this book. And he's going to need protection, or she's going to need protection, because I'm not putting up with that. So, I would protect them. I would educate them, and I would protect them, and I would tell them what to do, and I would make sure that none of my immediate family would be doing anything stupid. So, but when you have dysfunction, denial, and you've got dysfunction in the family of origin, and the abuser is doing the smear campaign, they're going to start siding with the abuser, and you're going to feel like the cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs one. You are not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. They are smearing you. That is what's happening. And especially if like family and friends are suddenly treating you different. Oh, that's a good clue. Oh, that's a really good clue. Oh, yeah. Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of things going on. There's like the guilt, if they feel any guilt of the family of origin, they don't want to take responsibility for, teaching you that this is okay. Then you've got the smearing campaign from the abuser. Then you've got the charming stuff that's going on. Friends. Let's talk about friends. Why are the friends siding with somebody who you've said is an abuser? That should make you go, things that make you go, old song. I'm aging myself here. Anyway, the point being is that you should be questioning that hard, not questioning you. You should be questioning that relationship, because if anyone, like if one of my friends walked up to me and said, I'm in an abusive relationship, this, and this, and again, read this book, you need to go get order protection. You need to do this, you need to do that. You need to do all of this stuff. Oh my God. Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Thank you. So yeah, it just, oh my God, it just drives me crazy that families do not protect their own. And that's another thing you need to look at. Why? Why are they not getting it? Why are they not getting it? A healthy, quote unquote, normal, quote unquote, family would protect their own. Why are they not protecting their own? That truly should make y'all go, that's not normal. So, okay, so it's and then let's say we are dealing with people who are not disordered. They're just, it's been a healthy family of origin, all of that. It is so hard for people to wrap their heads around. This whole topic is so hard for people to wrap their heads around. It's not even funny. So like even with targets of abuse, I will have to go back through and explain what just happened and why they're feeling the way they're feeling. And what the next move of the abuser is going to be. And then they're like, no, that's not going to happen. They're not going to try to hoover me back. They're not going to do this. They're not going to do that. And lo and behold, they do exactly what I said they were going to do. Why? Because they all have the same handbook. They all act. I don't care where in the world they are. I don't care what culture they come from. I don't care what language they speak. They all do the exact same behavior across the board. It does not vary. It doesn't vary from culture to culture, country to country, language to language. It does not vary. They do the love bombing. They do the devalue and the discard. They look for new supply. They don't get the new supply. They go back to hoovering. They do the love bombing. It's just, oh my God. Anyway, and so let's say that, okay, so it's a healthy family. They don't get it. So what you're going to have to do is you are going to have to educate them. You are going to have to educate the living crap out of them. So the object of my affection is in my reflection, coping with a narcissist. That is a great one because it describes the overt, the covert, and the communal. It's fantastic. My book, the Cha-Cha book, this describes romantic relationships that have gone south and why some people leave and why some people stay, okay? You've got to start educating. And it's really important to educate the family and educate the friends. Now, here's the thing. After you have educated the family and the friends, if they still choose to be in a relationship with the abuser after you've laid it, I need to stop the sound. Hold on. No, there we go. Sorry about that. After you have laid it out, after you have said, this is what's happened, this is how I was treated, this is abuse, this is verbal abuse, this is whatever, and you've educated them and they still choose the abuser, be done. Be done. They have shown you who they are. Now, the other thing I have heard families say that really pisses me off is, oh, they're an adult. We don't want to get involved. They're an adult. They know what they're doing. Okay, here's the deal. If there was abuse going on in the family, that is a typical thing that a disordered family would say because they're unwilling to look at the reality of it. When somebody is in an abusive relationship, there is always a reason why. And it's usually the inner child. The inner child is the one that ends up picking the partner if they haven't worked on whatever issues they have with their family of origin. Their inner child is the one that ends up doing all this stuff to stay in that relationship because they don't want to be abandoned. So they're not adults. Their inner child is running the show. And it would be incredibly helpful if the family, the mom, the dad, the grandparents, whoever, would stop doing that whole bullshit about, oh, they're an adult, they know what they're doing. How about y'all get into some family therapy? How about y'all start reading the Inner Child Workbook by Catherine Taylor? How about you start helping the person that's being targeted? No, they don't know. They're a child. I hate to break it to you, because when you talk to somebody who has been in an abusive relationship and the family of origin is dysfunctional in any way, shape, or form, or something traumatic has happened, when it comes down to it, the inner child is the one that's doing the picking. The inner child is the one that's doing the staying. The inner child is the one it's not that the inner child is bad. They're not. They need to be loved and they need to be held and they need to be grown up. You need to become your own parent to that. But oftentimes, family of origin don't want to deal with it. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to have the drama. They don't want to have the whatever. I'm sorry, but again, if one of my ones, I don't have my own children, but I've got tons of nieces and nephews. If one of my kids ever was in a relationship like that, they'd be having a talking to. And I'd be giving my number. I'd be saying, you call me, you need me, I'll be there. And plane hours, plane ride, be there. So yeah. So you get these families that do that. And to me, that's cowardly. That's cowardly. If you see your kid heading over the cliff, you don't just sit there and go, oh, okay, well, they're an adult. If they wanted to stop the horse, they could. Because it's not really an adult on the horse. It's a kid. How many kids do you know that can stop a full-grown stallion? Not many. So you know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, you gotta help them out, So there is that. And that really annoys me. Okay, so object of my affection, the Cha-Cha book, attachment. So when somebody is involved in an abusive relationship, it usually goes back to, again, the inner child and attachment. What is their attachment like? If there was the death of a parent when the child was young, by whatever, accident, suicide, murder, whatever, there's going to be attachment issues going on, okay? No surprise, they grow up and they get involved with somebody who promises them safety, but in fact turns out to be heinous, So it is important that if there is any sort of trauma in that person's life, that the family step the fuck in and help the fuck out. Don't get me started. Too late. Anyway, the point being is that they don't. A lot of times these families just are like, oh, I don't want to get involved. Oh, they're an adult. No. Physically, chronologically, yeah, they're an adult. Mentally, emotionally, if there was trauma of any kind going on, if there was dysfunction in the family, no, they're an inner child. They're a little kid. They're little. They're trying to win the love of that parent that they lost, or that parent that was abusive, or that parent that fill in the blank. So, okay. All right. So, all right. Oh, that's the other thing. Okay. So with family and friends, if they're siding with the abuser, they are showing you who they are. They are toxic as all hell. Get rid of them. Now, here is something that I have seen happen in the courts, is that they will tell the couple to go to couples counseling, or they will say, well, you two just need to work it out and blah, blah, blah. And somebody, oh, God bless them. Somebody today said that they had 26 instances, and this was on Facebook, of no contact. And the judge said, I'm not going to issue an order of protection just because you can't get along. 26. That to me says that judge is disordered. It does. It does. I'm sorry. No sane person who understands narcissistic abuse would look at 26 and go, I'm not going to do anything about that. Nah, it's not a big deal. Let me tell you something. Dirt triads are fucking dangerous. Why? Because they are batshit crazy. I'm yelling. Sorry. I get, they're crazy. They are crazy. So, and here's the deal, is that dark triads are the ones that stalk. Dark triads are usually the ones that go out and kill, okay? Because they have to win at all costs. And I do mean all costs. They don't care who they mow over. So that judge needs to have a complaint filed against them and needs to be removed. I'm sorry. So the key is education. Honest to God. And this is what I've been doing for these many years. I mean, I started with a little group of lawyers that I know, and I've expanded it out as much as I possibly can. I have testified in court locally here. I hate court cases. Anyway, the point being is that you educate. And oftentimes what I find is that the attorneys are disordered, a lot of them. The judges definitely are disordered, a lot of them. Not all. There's been a few judges where I was like, thank you. Oh my God. Thank you for being sane. And they would grant the orders of protection and do the right thing. But then there are some judges like this jackass that, this client was, or not client, but this person was telling me about. And I'm just like, this is the reason why we end up having, people murdered, men and women, by their abuser, because judges don't listen. Why? Because they're not fucking educated on what these jackasses do. So, and that's the other thing, is that the courts don't believe us because, again, they're either narcissistic themselves, or They can't wrap their head around that people will use the court system to continue the abuse. And that's got to stop. So honest to God, guys, it's like the biggest thing that I would love to see if you're a counselor listening to this, if you're a counseling student listening to this, educate the fucking crap out of as many people as you possibly can about what occurs in domestic violence, what occurs with dark triads, what occurs with malignant narcissists and malignant borderlines. Get your hands on attorneys and start holding seminars and educate them on this. And we need to get a hold of the ear of the state law people. We need to have it mandatory that family court judges have training in domestic violence and have training in personality disorders, because this is going to be 99.999% of their cases. And this is also going to be where the abuser is going to continue the abuse once the relationship is over, especially if there are children involved. So there is that. Education is the key. Okay. Okay. Here's the thing. It is really hard for survivors of abuse when we come out of this relationship thinking that we have this wonderful support system and it literally evaporates in front of us. It's not personal, and that's really hard not to take personal because it feels personal. You know, like when family and friends, especially mom, dad, whoever you thought had your back, and it turns out, oh no, they're having lunch with your ex. I'm sorry. What? Yeah, it's hard. So there are tons of places that offer counseling for low cost to no cost. It depends on where it is. Some counseling master's degrees and above will have practicums where they need people to practice on, and those are free. Those are 6-week programs, 6-week counseling sessions. It's better than nothing. You need support. You need support. Again, the danger is getting with a counselor that does not understand abuse. But, you know, sometimes maybe just having a place to vent would be good. A support group would be great. Be careful because there are predators in support groups. With family and friends, if after you have educated them about the abuse and they continue to side with the abuser, one of two things is going on. Either they just don't get it, which, you know, if you've educated them on it, they should get it, or they themselves are disordered and they are going with the major narcissist. So flying monkeys tend to be minor narcissists. They want to be associated with somebody they perceive as charming, powerful, rich, whatever. So they will go with that. So anyway, all right. So, you know, the other thing of it is too, is that if the family is disordered, they don't want to admit their part in it. Like I said, we've learned the codependency from somewhere. Where did we learn it? Where did that come from? Where did normalizing abuse, where did that come from? Where did that come from? Who normalized the abuse for us? Who normalized codependence for us? Who normalized intermittent positive rewards for us? It's really, when this happens and that happens and friends and family start showing their true colors, it is devastating. Necessary though. Necessary, because you need to know who's on your side and who really isn't. And who really isn't, be done with them. Be done. Be done with them. Don't have them in your life because they'll keep reporting back to the abuser. They'll be the little spy for them, and you don't want and or need that. That is for sure. Okay, let me see if I've got all of that. So it's really hard to get people to wrap their head around, number one. So if there is no abuse in the family, there is no dysfunction, whatever, it's a fairly normal family, it is really hard for them to wrap their heads around that things are intentional. So for example, I had a client recently that the family had done these really horrific, just despicable, lying sack of shit kind of things, right? And the kid just kept looking at me, adult, kept looking at me and going, but did they do it on purpose? Yes. They, honest to God, do what they do on purpose. They actually will figure out how to destroy somebody. They'll figure out how to sabotage somebody. They will figure out what's going to hurt the person the worst. That's why they pump the victims, the targets, for information so that they can figure out where their weaknesses are so that when they do the devalue and the discard, they can just go straight to the jugular. So yeah, absolutely. It is intentional. Don't ever kid yourself. And after you've educated somebody on this and they're still siding with them, they're just as bad as the abuser. They are. It's like, don't have them in your life. Okay. Education is the key. Self-esteem is the key. When you leave an abusive relationship, you need to understand that these people are going to follow a playbook. And they are going to hoover and they are going to smear. That's the most disheartening, I think, for most people, is when they come out of the relationship and they realize that this person that they loved has gone around and smeared them to everyone. That's what they're going to do because that's who they are, which sucks. So get with a good support group of some sort. Get with a good trauma therapist. You are going to need it. EMDR, okay? That's a great one. EFT. That's another great one. CBT, cognitive behavioral, which is what I do. That's a great one. DBT, dialectic behavioral. That's a great one. There's all sorts of good modalities, but find a therapist that understands trauma, that understands narcissistic abuse, because you're going to need the support. And especially if the family and the friends don't get it, here's the thing. There is ignorance and then there's willful ignorance. And oftentimes what I find with a lot of these families, it's willful ignorance, even after you've educated them that, but I don't understand. Yeah, you do. I've given you the books. You've read them. I've told you what happened. You heard me, but you're not believing me. What's that about? They're showing you who they are. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. And as far as the legal system is concerned, we need to educate them. When I say we, I mean everybody. I mean y'all, us. Us, all of us who have been through this need to get the ear of every state senator and state representative, and we need to say, look, this has got to stop. This has got to stop. No more divorce cases being drug out for 15 years because the narcissist didn't get their way. No more kids being sacrificed on the altar of some asshole's ego because they want to hurt the opposing spouse. This needs to be educated with every single judge, every single attorney who is in the family court system. So I would seriously start writing letters to any lawmaker you can think of and say, this needs to be made mandatory for family court. Absolutely. And it needs to be mandatory for any judge that is going to be dealing with restraining orders. There we go. All right. So there is that. So Object of My Affection is a great book. My Cha-Cha book is another good book. Anything by Shahida is a great book. Shahida Arabi, her books are amazing. Susanna Quintana, her book, that's a great book. You just want to educate. And if after you've educated them, they're still siding with the abuser, be done with them. Be done with them. Cut them off. Cut them off because they'll just be running back to the abuser, feeding them information, and you do not want that. So to conclude this TED Talk, the reason that people don't get it is either they can't wrap their head around it because they've never experienced it, or they are minor narcissists themselves and they don't want to get it. They don't want to understand it. They don't want to admit that they might have possibly contributed in any way, shape, or form to that situation. And these are the ones that are like hands off, they're an adult, blah, 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 denial, denial, denial. So there is that. Okay. And then the legal system, of course, is just foobarred, just completely fucked up beyond all repair. It really does need a complete overhaul. And it does need to have training in this particular area because this is where all restraining orders come from. Normal people don't stalk other people. Let me just say that again. Healthy, normal people do not stalk other people, nor do they threaten, nor do they, sabotage /chires, whatever, or whatever, or 100 texts in a 1 hour period. No, or more. They don't. No, normal people don't do that. So judges need to understand that somebody who's doing that is dangerous, like dangerous, like dangerous. Did I mention they were dangerous? So yeah, so this is why I think we should all start writing senators, representatives, and demand for a change in how family court and how orders of protection are done. So there it is. Okay, I'm going to go to questions now. All right, so let me get over to the other page. Okay. Hi, Chris. I love your bluntness. I love it so much that I often swear, and one of my friends couldn't take it when I swore about one abuser. She told me that I somehow allow abuse. Isn't that blame? Yes, it is. So victim blaming is rampant. Rampant. So instead of putting it back on CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker, chapter 3. I think it's chapter 3. Putting it back on the abuser. Instead of going, this person is responsible for their actions. This person is responsible. The only time it becomes our responsibility is when we see that it's happening, but we keep staying with them, or we keep allowing them in our lives. We've got to go no contact. And that's hard to do in the beginning, and that's not blaming. That's, it takes 7 times, guys. It takes 7 times getting away on average to get away from an abuser. But once we've made that break, now it's on us to stay healthy, happy, and whole. We can't just sit there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff my dad did. Abso-fucking-lutely. I will flip him off until the day I die. Probably I'll be going out of this world going, fuck you, Bob. But the point being is that, yes, he did a lot of damage, but then I got to take what I was handed, the cards I was given, and play them. And that's what I've been doing. So, you can't sit there and blame your abuser for the rest of your life. It's like, well, you can go, yeah, they did this. Yeah, they did that. Yeah, they did that. And now what am I going to do with this? Now what am I going to do? It's like living your best life is really what it's all about. So if she's doing that, if that friend is doing that, I would question is that a real friend? What's the goal? What is her agenda? What's going on there? You might want to do a pro and a con list. What are the pros of having this person in your life? What are the cons of having this person in your life? If the cons outweigh the pros, act accordingly, get rid of them. Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny. I've had a few people, not clients or anything, because my clients are always like, this is fucking great. I can swear and do whatever I want. I'm like, yeah, you can. So, but other people have been like, oh, you're not a lady if you say that. Well, I guess I'm not a fucking lady then, bitch. Yeah, moving along. Bye. I'm sorry. It's like, if you don't like swearing, let me know. I'll try not to swear in front of you, except for the show, because this is my show. But other than that, if you get all offended and start, pouring Bible verses at me, I'm going to flip you off and say, fine, we're done. Bye, Asta, so anyway. All right. When will the inner child grow up? What does a grown-up look like? What does it take? So the inner child starts growing up when it is acknowledged, when it is loved, when that child is validated and heard and believed, more importantly. So again, the Inner Child Workbook by Catherine Taylor. EMDR is a great modality for dealing with past abuse, traumatic stuff. So once we start validating that little one, that little kid starts feeling safe and starts feeling that they can trust us, the adult, and turn control over to the adult. That's why when I have people do the guided imagery, put them on your lap, hug them, kiss them, hold their hand, let them know what a great kid they are. What do they need? 9 times out of 10, the kid is going to say, I just need to be safe. I just need to be loved. I need to be heard, along those lines. So great. Okay. I will keep you safe. I love you. I will protect you. I have your back. I believe you. You're a great kid. Here's what I need from you. You need to let me be the adult. You need to let the adult me make the decisions, not you. And oftentimes the inner child is really freaked out about that because they're trying to stay in control so that they stay safe. And they're doing things that we did when we were little that worked. And it might have worked when we were little, maybe not, but it certainly doesn't work now as an adult. So it takes working the Inner Child Workbook by Catherine Taylor. It takes doing therapy, working on the past, allowing your inner child to have a voice. So writing a love letter to that little kid, allowing that little kid to write a letter to the abusers. What would your inner child say to your abusers? It's probably going to be a lot of tears. It's going to be a lot of emotions. It's allowing that inner child to have the emotions and have the experiences that they did not get to have when they were little. You are now the parent. You are reparenting. That's what the mirror work is all about. Hi, good to see you. Have a great date. You know what? I give you permission to like yourself. It's okay. That kind of thing. You're talking to your inner child, basically, when you're doing the mirror work. You're talking to you, too. But you can also talk to your inner child when you do that. Hey, I believe you. I believe you. I know you went through everything you went through. I know you did. I believe you. And you know what? It's okay for you to be heard and believed. And then walk out. So you can do inner child mirror work. So they start growing up when we start validating them, when we start protecting them, when we start acknowledging them, when we start working with them. So the Inner Child Workbook by Catherine Taylor, Get with a good therapist, start working on all of that, do the mirror work, journal, write, allow your inner child to express, what do you need to say? I'm going to give you the pen. You go for it. That kind of thing. So, yep. So, and it's wonderful because then they become your ally kind of thing and they become an adult. It's not like you're separate. It's like you're all one. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like everybody becomes one, everybody's good. So, and it's self-esteem, Inner Child Workbook and the Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. Also the Disease to Please, Harriet Breaker. Why? Because you need self-esteem. Little one needs self-esteem. 9 times out of 10, we got an abusive parent, if that's what was going on, that decimated our self-esteem. That taught us to be codependent. So that's why those 2 books, the Self-Esteem Workbook and the Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker, are really important because you need to have rock solid self-esteem. People with good self-esteem do not self-sabotage. People with good self-esteem do not allow the inner child to choose the mate. They allow the adult to choose the mate. They fix their picker. Does that make sense? And the Disease to Please is about not being codependent, not, having good boundaries, being able to say no, and not be shooken to the core if somebody doesn't like the fact that you said no. It's like, oh, you don't like the fact I said no? Things that make me go, You see where I'm going? Instead of immediately going, oh my God, they're so mad at me because I said no. Instead of going that, they're like, oh no, I don't want you to be upset with me. I don't want you to be angry with me. No. If they're angry because you said no, that's a really good indication of who they are. They just showed you who they are. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, I hope that answered the question. Do flying monkeys understand how much they are hurting our feelings? They don't seem to, no matter how well one explains. Like I said, flying monkeys are one of two animals. They are either just ignorant, they don't understand, you have to educate them, or you've educated them and they continue, which then says to me, they are minor narcissists themselves. They are disordered in some way, shape, or form themselves. So if they don't get how they're hurting your feelings, I know when I've hurt someone's feelings, good God, yeah. And they don't seem to matter, no matter how well you explain, be done. No contact, be done. You don't need them in your life. How can you educate and show support for a family member when the abuser wants to isolate and take them hostage from you? Oy, that is a tough one. Okay. So here's the deal. As we all know, abusers have trained the target to overshare. Show of hands. How many of us here have overshared to an abuser? Hello, all of us. So what will happen is you're going to educate them. You're going to try to help them. And that target of abuse is going to run right back to the abuser and tell them everything you said. And then the abuser will make sure that you're out of the target of abuse life. That's what they do. That is absolutely what they do. What you do is you let the target of abuse know that you love them and you believe them and you're always there for them. You try to have coffee with them. You allow them a safe place to vent, but you cannot get them to leave the abuser until they're ready to leave the abuser. This really is almost like an addiction situation. You know how we're always saying, it's like, look, if the addict doesn't want to stop, they're not going to stop. Well, it's the same thing. Why? Because the target of abuse is addicted to that intermittent positive rewards. When the abuser is good, it's golden. It's beautiful. But when the abuser is bad, it's deadly, but they're addicted to when the abuser is good. And they're living for those moments when the abuser goes back to love bombing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can't. What you can do is you can call it out before it happens. Look, this person is going to take you away from me. Look, this person is going to do, and hopefully you've planted a seed somewhere, but that's pretty much all you can do. Until they're ready to leave, that's pretty much all you can do. And know that they're going to run back to the abuser and tell them everything. So be prepared. You're probably going to lose this person. So, because the more you try to help them, the more they're going to run to the abuser because they don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe they're being isolated. They don't want to believe they're being abused. Who does? Who among us wanted to believe that that person was as bad as they really are? None of us. None of us. I didn't want to believe my dad was that bad. That was something I really struggled with in my own therapy, was realizing that both my mom and my dad really did not have my best interest at heart. And that, like I said, is a really tough one for kids to get. Adult kids, little kids, whatever. But it's also tough for a romantic relationship to really get that that person that you thought you knew, that you thought you loved, is really not that person, and that the person that they really are is the abuser. That's a tough one. So there's a lot of denial going on. There's a lot of stuff going on, and they're not going to leave or get it until they're ready to leave. And sometimes that's when the abuse gets to a certain level. Other times it's not until the physical stuff starts. So, all you can do is call it before it happens. Tell them that you're safe, a safe place, that you're always going to be willing to help them, but be prepared for them to run back to the abuser. So yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I wish I had better news on that one. Actually, I did do a video, oh Lord, I think it must be a 4-year-old video now on how to help somebody that's still in an abusive relationship. They're not going to believe you. They're not going to, it's not like you're going to lay out your evidence like in a court case and go, Exhibit A, and this person's an asshole or an assholette. They're not going to get it. They're going to be in denial. They're going to push against. They're no, my picker's fine. I didn't make a mistake, So unless and until they come to you for help, not a damn thing you can do, pretty much. Kind of like any addict, because we are addicted to that intermittent positive rewards. Can you elaborate on a minor narcissist? Okay, so a minor narcissist is not a full-blown narcissist. They've got maybe strong traits of or traits of, but they don't have all 5. So that's a minor narcissist. When you get to strong traits of, it's like 3 or more, because you only need 5 of the 9 to be considered narcissistic personality disorder. So a minor narcissist has got maybe 3, maybe 4 traits. They're not full-blown. So yeah, so those are minor narcissists. And anyone who sides with the abuser what's their agenda? What are they getting out of this? You got to ask questions like that. Okay. Okay, narcissist. Okay. What should I be working on to heal myself? Because in my mind, I still want to convince others to see what has been happening, even after I told them. 20+ year marriage, recently divorced. It is no longer about other people. It is no longer about other people. It is now about you. You are the only person that matters right now. You're knowing what happened is the only thing that matters right now. You cannot convince others. You cannot. If they're flying monkeys, you're not going to convince them. If they're disordered, you're not going to convince them. If they're on the side of the narcissist, you're not going to convince them. It doesn't matter. What matters is you. The best revenge, you really want to get a good revenge, live an amazing life. That is the best revenge. Seriously. Because what the narcissist wants is they want to stay stuck in our head right here 24/7, ruminating about them, chewing the cud just like a cow. That whole thing, chewing the cud, thinking about them 24/7, trying to make everybody believe us because they've told everybody we're crazy. And that's what they want. They want to be in the forefront of your head 24/7. The best revenge is to give them the anonymity that they so richly deserve, which means you work on yourself. You do the Self-Esteem Workbook by Glenn Schiraldi. You do The Disease to Please by Harriet Breaker. You do CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. And then you start deciding, what do you want? What have you not been able to do in the last 20 years that you've always wanted to do? Go back to school, travel the world once this stupid fucking COVID is done. Don't get me started. Anyway, so, do what you want. A hobby. What hobby do you want to do? What were you always told? No, you can't. No, don't you dare. Don't you dare give your attention to this. Go do that. It is no longer about other people. It is about you. Self-esteem, not other esteem. Doesn't matter what other people think of us. We cannot control that. Other people are going to think and say what other people are going to think and say, and we cannot control that. What other people think of us is none of our goddamn business. So you work on you. That's really what it is. And again, people who are willing to believe the worst about us are not our people. Let me just say that again. People who are willing to believe the worst about us because of the smear campaign, those aren't our people. People who are our people would defend us. People who are people would be like, oh, hell no. You know what I'm saying? So pick and choose your people very carefully. Anybody, again, who is on the side of the abuser, be done. Yep. All right. How do I deal with a family and in-laws that don't believe me? I've gone gray rock and no contact, but I feel so much guilt. How do I cope day to day with that? Any relationship that brings you fear, obligation, or guilt, fog, says to me that that is a toxic relationship. So you don't need to feel guilty about anything. You don't need to feel obligated about anything. You don't need to feel fear about anything. You don't. You know, it's family that is not going to back you. They're not your people. You know, in-laws, they raised them. You know, it's sad to me when I see targets of abuse being shocked that the abuser's family is backing them. Well, who the hell do you think turned them the way they are? Who the hell do you think raised them? Who the hell do you think said nothing about their behavior? Who enabled them? That would be the family of origin. So, you know, again, there was a great, what was it on? The Unexplained. And I think it was either on the cults one or it was on the Amazing Brain. And there was a scientist who had done studies on psychopaths and everything, and he was doing one on Alzheimer's patients, and he didn't have enough of a control group. So he had his family and him do PET scans, and when the PET scans came through, he said, oh, ha, 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 very funny, you put in a psychopath brain. And they said, no, this is from the control group. So then he was curious. He's like, well, who the hell is this? Boop, it was him. Nature, nurture. So he had the brain of a psychopath, but he never went that route. Why? Because his family was healthy. His family helped him identify emotions, right from wrong, moral code, etc. But he did have the brain of a psychopath. Nature, nurture. I know. So it's The Unexplained. It's the one with William Shatner, and it's either the one on cults or it's the one on The Amazing Brain, I think is the name of the episode. So anyway, hi, Sherry. Thank you. So, okay, where was I? Oh, guilt. Right. So, okay. So you're not going to convince them. Again, it is no longer about convincing anybody. You know the truth. You know your own truth. Get into a good therapist, move on with your life. And family and friends that try to make you wrong for that or guilt trip you or whatever, nope, you're not, don't play that game. Don't give them that power. My suggestion would be to write a go fuck you letter to all of them and burn it. Do not send it. Do not send it. Burn it. You're going to write it. You're going to burn it. You're going to trot it out to the barbecue, read it out loud once, burn it. Let it go. Let it go. You know your own truth. That's all that matters. Do we need to find a human trauma-informed therapist, or can we heal PTSD on our own? Do we need a witness? Well, you can certainly work on it on your own. Sometimes it's helpful to have a therapist because sometimes we are blind to our own issues. It's true. We don't always see the forest through the trees. Let me put it to you that way. Sometimes it helps to have somebody up on a bluff going, yo, to the left. There you go. Fabulous. You're on the path now. Good job. Do you see where I'm going with that? We don't always see all of our own foibles. We don't always see all of our own issues. Sometimes it's really helpful to have a therapist give us an aha moment, right? And we go, oh, shit. Okay. Got to work on that, that kind of thing. So you can do a lot of work on your own, absolutely. But sometimes, like I said, it's really helpful to have a third person or a second person there to be able to go, what is this? What have you thought about this? Well, you're saying you want this, but you're doing this. What's going on? So we're not always aware of habits, behaviors, etc., that are maybe not healthy. So yeah, it does help to have a really good therapist. So you don't have to, but it does help. What do you do when the police and courts are enabling the abuser and abusing by proxy? That is a tough one. And it depends on so many different things, circumstances. So like in smaller towns, that's really tough, because that says to me that there's like corruption and all sorts of stuff going on. In a larger town, you might be able to get the media involved in it. You might be able to be a whistleblower. It's hard to say. It's really hard, because they do. In a lot of small towns, I have seen and heard about abusers using the small town police force to do their abusing by proxy, using the court system in a small town to do that. Sometimes they try to do it in bigger towns. It's a little less likelier in bigger towns. You could try to contact state and state representatives and let them in on it, and try to get somebody above to take a look. But it's hard. It's hard. It really is like fighting City Hall, which is why I'm saying we all need to start contacting state representatives and state people and going, this needs to change. This is a problem. This is what's happening. This is not just, an isolated case. This is like a lot of them. So yeah, I really don't know what to do to help you with that. It would be, you'd have to get a hold of somebody that has some power that could affect change. And that would probably be either the media, or it would be somebody higher up in government. But again, you will be subject to mobbing, probably. So, hi, Jan. Thank you. Okay, what is a dark triad, and how do you deal with dark triads in a care facility? Ooh, okay. A dark triad is a psychopath. They are psychopathic. They are absolutely psychopathic. Machiavellian, control freak. They have to be in control 24/7, and narcissistic. So that's a dark triad. How do you deal with dark triads in a care facility? You never turn your back on them, ever. Can I just make that really clear? When I was working at the homeless shelter, there was a couple of them that we had that were sex offenders that were in there. And I told my peer support, I said, Rocky, I love you. And he's like, I know where you're going with that. I will never leave you alone with this person or this person. I'm like, thank you. So we knew which ones were absolutely dangerous. So you just make sure you never turn your back on them. And there was a couple of times I had to be alone in the room with them. And I made sure I was by the door, and I made sure that I did not turn my back on them ever. So, because they're crazy. They're malicious and they're crazy. So yeah, absolutely. Okay. How to get rid of guilt from creating a boundary and going no contact. So again, if you are feeling guilty because you created a boundary and you went no contact with somebody that's abusive, that's a really good indication that that relationship was toxic. So you work on your self-esteem. People with good self-esteem do not feel guilty for creating boundaries and going no contact with somebody who is toxic. When you've got good self-esteem, you know what's best for you. You do, and you do the right things. And even though that person may be trying to guilt trip you, or their little flying monkeys may be trying to guilt trip you, you know you did the right thing, and you don't fall for it. You don't feel guilty. It's kind of like, well, this is the same kind of the same question as when somebody says to me, well, the abuser is trying to make me feel guilty because they're aging and they want me to take care of them in their old age, but they did this, they did this, they did this, they did this, they continue to do this, they continue to do that. And I look at them and I go, if they wanted to be taken care of in their old age, maybe they shouldn't have acted like a bunch of ass munches. Seriously, you are under no obligation. If you are feeling fear, obligation, or guilt, that is an indication that that relationship is completely 100% taken to the bank, earn interest on it, toxic. Get out and don't feel guilty. You have a right to have boundaries. You have a right to go no contact with people. If somebody is toxic, you don't need them in your life. Remember, there's a difference between compassion and idiot compassion. So compassion is going, wow, I can see why the abuser is the way they are. Wow, look at the family history. Look at this, look at that. Okay, I got it. I have compassion for them. It sucks to be them. They're suffering the whole time. I get it. But I don't need them in my life. That's regular. That's regular compassion. So compassion is understanding where they go, but I don't need them in my life. I understand that they're miserable and why, but I don't need them in my life. Okay. Idiot compassion is where we go, oh, wow, I see where they're from. I see all of this. And I'm going to keep them in my life and try to fix them and try to heal them and try to love them into sanity. That is idiot compassion. There is no amount of love on this planet or any other planet that is going to make them heal. Isn't that sad? It would be so nice if love did fix people or love did heal people, but it won't with them because they don't have the empathy cog. They do not love. They do not feel love. They do not have the joy. Just like I was talking about last week with the holidays. They get enraged because they cannot feel joy. Okay, there is a question, one more question. Oh no, there's a lot more questions. Okay, is I'm sorry you feel that way an invalidating apology? Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry you feel that way. Rather than, oh my gosh, I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry. Wow, that was not my intention. So you validate the other person. When you're apologizing, you validate the other person. Yeah, I'm sorry you feel that. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry you feel that way. Those are all invalidations. So you accept it, you validate it. I hurt you, I'm sorry, that wasn't my intent. What can I do to make amends? I can't concentrate, living with 2 narcs, and I can't go away. Any advice? They're always on my mind. That's why I can't work properly, I think. Okay. Living with an abuser is incredibly hard, really hard. And when you're living with the abuser, there's always that part of your mind is always like trying to stay one step ahead of them. And it is hard to concentrate because you're always like, when's the other shoe going to drop? When's this going to happen? When's that going to happen? I don't know what good advice to give you other than if you can find a work space that takes you out of the house, and of course we've got COVID going on. It's a stupid fucking virus. So there used to be a place here in Gilbert. No, not in Gilbert. In Tempe. Tempe? Where the hell was it? Yeah, it was in Tempe. Anyway, it was called Gangplank. And it was a shared communal work area. And so different companies would rent or buy space by the day or whatever and go and work. And that was kind of nice because it's like if you didn't want to have your office in your home, but you really didn't want to have a full-time office, and you just needed time away from the family and you needed to do work and blah, blah, blah. That was a great thing to go do. So there should be, and I don't know with COVID, but there should be some like shared work areas or shared workspace, or maybe finding I don't know if the libraries are, I don't know. Tough question. But yeah, they do get into our heads and they do make it hard for us to concentrate. So if you can get any break away and do your work somewhere else, or maybe with a workmate over at their house, that would be good, getting out and getting away. Living with them makes it really difficult, and it makes it really difficult to heal because they're constantly undoing any good stuff that we've got going on. So for example, when targets of abuse start seeing a counselor and their attitude starts changing, pretty soon they're going through the phones, pretty soon they're going through the emails, then they find out they've been in counseling, and then they demand it stops because the person's been changing and they've not been putting up with their crap. So it makes it hard to heal if you are still in that environment. If you can find a way to work at somebody else's house or something, do that. So, and get some breaks. You're going to have to build in breaks. They're going to want to know where you are and what you're doing and da-da-da-da-da. But you're going to have some boundaries and get out and away so that you can get some recharge time. So I hope that answered that question. Okay, are we at 1? Oh my Lord, we've gone over. Okay, so all right. So anyway, so that is why family, friends, the legal system don't get it. So either they're minor narcissists themselves, or in case of the legal, they're full-blown narcissists themselves, or they're just not, they can't wrap their head around it. But again, if after you've educated them and they are still siding with the abuser, be done. Get in with a good support group. Get in with a good trauma therapist. That is what you are going to need. Next week, I want to talk more about healthy friendships, healthy work environment, because people are sending me stuff about crazy stuff that's going on in the work. And I'm like, what the fuck? I wouldn't put up with that. Anyway, so I want to talk about What does a healthy friendship look like? What does a healthy work environment look like? We've already talked about the romantic, we've already talked about the family. Let's talk about the friendships and the work environment. So, in drawing boundaries in both. So, okay, that's what we're going to talk about next week. You guys, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I will see you next Sunday, and the topic will be healthy friends and healthy work environment. So there it is. Thanks, you guys. Be good. Take care of yourselves. And where is my, there it is. Okay, I will talk to you later. Bye.